Gary, thank you very much for joining us for this interview. We really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
On game day, just give us a flavour of what you do on the game day as general manager.
Well, you know, GM stands for grief manager, don't it? So the problems come your way. I mean, it's hard to put into words. If you asked me to write it down, it wouldn't look particularly big. The biggest thing is you have to be here, so that if something happens, you can react to it and deal with it. But I mean, this morning I spent 2 hours preparing for tomorrow's auction after the game, because I had to go through all the bids and stuff like that, just so I'm prepared for tomorrow in case something happens tonight, which means I haven't got time to do that tomorrow. So the scripts were written yesterday at the office for the announcers and everything like that, and the lists go up outside the away team door, the home team locker room, for the referees, just to tell them what we're doing before the game. There's a Man of the Month presentation, for example, tonight, so I've been in touch with the supporters club about that. And we've got a mascot tonight, so we've got someone in to look after the mascot, and we were checking who they wanted to drop the puck with, and you put all of that into the script and what have you. So the first thing you do when you get here is you deliver the scripts, you deliver the schedule, the manifest for the game and what have you. Check that the coach is all right, check that the players are all right. If you're lucky, you get a cup of tea at that point, but as usual, Goody hasn't got enough milk in today, so that one's out the window. There's some money to be delivered, floats to be delivered, so that we can sell programmes and 50-50 tickets and stuff like that. The most sought after signature in Nottingham this evening has to be delivered. The blank cheque for the 50-50 winner. I write the cheque, but not the amount.
Obviously.
We deliver that, then I pop upstairs and make sure Steve's okay, setting the camera up and everything for the DVD of the game, which we have to do for 3 different reasons. We DVD games for league rules. So that the away coach gets one, the ref gets one, and our coaches get one to help them plan training and video analysis and all the rest of it. We also put commentary on it so that we can sell it to the fans, and it sells quite well. You know, the best sellers are always Sheffield with a fight. And that's standard, bog standard, that happens. So we check we're okay upstairs for the DVDs and what have you. And then the other reason we film games like that is so that we can give the broadcast quality tape to local television stations and to Sky, and then they use clips on terrestrial and satellite television. So that side of it you just have to look at and what have you. Sometimes on game days I join in on the commentary, sometimes I do the commentary. Owen Bradley from the BBC does the commentary, does a great job. He's young, he's keen, he's fresh, you know. I've got the t-shirt, so I don't need to do it. I just do it for fun sometimes, or by necessity at others. And also on game day you check the refs are okay, and you go upstairs and you check. Front of house nowadays, Nicola and Sarah have got that nailed. But you know what, in a nutshell, you're here in case something's required, and touch wood, it works like clockwork, because just like a coach and a good coach that's got systems on the ice, you've got your systems for off the ice. And everyone's got their jobs, they know their roles, and hopefully it all falls into place and everyone has a good night out, win, lose or draw, hopefully win. And we all go home happy, and everyone wants to come back tomorrow, in our case today.
We do get the biggest average crowds in the league. That's undisputed. What do you think we do right that helps us attract those crowds?
We have a few, Panthers, Neil Black, Gary Moran ethics. You know, the cheapest way to watch ice hockey is a season ticket. Always has been and always will be. I don't think it's fair on season ticket holders to do it any other way. We've done a difficult thing. I might have mentioned this to you before, but we've come from a small arena with a hardcore of 1,000 or so fans into a big arena. If you launch yourself in a big arena, you can go all rah-rah skirts and cheerleaders and just hit them with that, because that's the show. But we have to move slowly. People don't like change. You know, people do not like change. And we're trying to please an awful lot of people a lot of the time, and we know you can't please everybody all of the time, but we advertise, we're on the radio, we do competitions on the radio, and our biggest and best marketing tool are the fans. You know, they go into work on a Monday morning if Panthers have had a good game, and they're telling their workmates about it. You know, and when we were in the old barn, there was very much an ethic amongst the fans that someone might say to them, Jono, it's Sheffield at the Panther, playing Panthers this week, but I'd love to go, but you can't get a ticket, can you? And when we were in the old building with this myth that we sold out every week, and it was a myth, I'm not saying you did, but some people might have reacted you can't, I can. You know, because you were special, you're a Panthers fan, you were special. So as soon as we moved into the big building, what was it, 10, 11, 12 years ago now, time flies, that myth was out of the water. People could get tickets. But you've now got the Sheffield game. You don't have to push the Sheffield games much.
No.
I think as we sit in here right now, we have not mentioned the fact that we play Sheffield in 6 days' time. There are 308 seats to sell as of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon in the Nottingham blocks. Wow. You know, so the fans know. But you give them a good night out, you look after them, but we're also visitor friendly. And that's a big part of making it friendly for your home fans as well. You know, you can be, you know, I mean, I chase the Yorkshire pound, I chase the Scottish pound, I'm happy to chase the Irish pound, and if there was a team in Brighton, we'd chase the pink pound, if you'll forgive me. Do you know what I mean? Because the visiting fans need to come to Nottingham and say, hey, we had a great time when we went to Nottingham. We got beat, but we had a good time, and no one was having a go at us on the microphone, no one was shouting on the microphone, boring, because your guys were making more noise than the home fans, because you were winning in Coventry and what have you. You know, you got to try and make it a good night out for everybody, but you can't just instantly please everybody. You can't do it. A lady wrote to us last week because the box office wasn't open at the end of the quarter-final against Fife, as we thought it might be, to sell tickets for the semi-final. She complained that the box office wasn't open. It was post 9 o'clock, so the tickets were on sale immediately after the game, but only when the box office is open at 9 o'clock the next morning. So there was that little bit of communication, cross wires if you like. But very quickly her email became, and can we start on time in future? And I don't like the music you come on to, and I don't like the music you come on to at the start of the second. Do you know what I mean? And we can't please everybody. You just have to accept that. And we just have to give them a good night out. But the bottom line is, this is a brilliant sport to watch live, and that's the way to watch it. So, you know, you can't watch it on a webcast from the Panthers. You can't watch it, clips of it on YouTube that have been announced on Twitter and all the rest of it, because the best way to watch it is here. And if we get the fans in, we can keep the prices down for the fans as well. It's all a question. It's like life. It's a balance, isn't it? And the best thing of all is that we got a lot of fans, and when we ask them to, they'll probably try and bring a neighbour along.
Talking of live web streams, there's obviously a lot of clubs in the league who do a live webcast now. Is it something you've ever considered doing at Panthers?
Well, as I just touched on, you know, to pay the wages, to pay the rent, it's a beautiful facility. We're sitting in a fantastic facility, but it's not cheap, but it shouldn't be cheap. That's why we're playing a nice facility. It's downtown, it's right in the middle of town. It's just the right number. It creates a good atmosphere. We have to pay the rent, and to pay the rent we need the ticket price. That's the primary income for all ice hockey teams in this country. So webcast is something that has been talked about, but until we get sold out signs every match, including the Edinburghs and the Fives and the Dundees, as well as the visits by Sheffield and the odd one by Coventry, till you get close to that, I think we should concentrate on the core business, which is providing a night's ice hockey with some entertainment tagged on the end and a seat in a brilliant building to watch it in.
Do any of the other clubs come to you and ask for advice about how they can market the club and increase their crowds due to the success that we have of pulling fans in here?
Well, it's there if they want it. We you know, I never don't answer the phone and what have you. One club in particular has talked to me a lot, and we've never made any secret of it. Todd Kelman and I get on great. You know, and Belfast do well. And we call it a rivalry built on respect with Belfast. And they have a good operation. They think we have a good operation. And you know what, when you talk to anybody, they always end up saying it's a great organisation in Nottingham. They've got it taped and what have you. Some of the other teams, I'll be honest with you, Jono, I'm surprised that they don't ring up and say, you know, what would you do in this situation or whatever. But maybe they ring someone else and say what else and what have you. But the advice is there if they want it. Todd takes quite a bit. But I mean, he got help, didn't he? Because family went there, and, you know, partner worked for me as well. So there was two of them. Yeah. There were two Morans over in Belfast for a while, so he didn't actually have to ring me. He could just walk down the locker room or ring them at home. So he took on board a few things from Nottingham. But I'm not saying we've got it 100% right. I'm just saying that what we've got so far, touch wood, seems to be doing okay at the moment. It's been a long haul though.
Yeah. When we last spoke in September 2000, just after the NIC had opened...
Come on, we've spoken since then.
We have spoken, well...
But not
like this.
Not for an interview.
Not like this. But then you said, we talked about free tickets, obviously, a new arena, you've got seats to fill, and you said then that you felt free ticket giveaways will be wallpaper in the crowd. 12 years on, do you still feel the same way?
Yeah. I think it creates a different mindset. If you give loads of tickets away, I think the guy walks in and sits there and says, come on then, entertain me. I've given you my time. And if you entertain them and they have a good night out, I'm not saying always, but the chances are his attitude might be, do you know what, I'll go again if it's free. And that's wrong. What we have done, and we still do now and again, is odd games, we'll look at them and we'll say, do you know what, we're not going to sell out at that game. It's not going to hurt us. So if we can direct tickets in a specific way through a sponsor, the sponsor then passes some tickets on to people. The people then come, and their mindset isn't, come on then, I've got in for free. They walk through the door, they might see the sponsor's name on the shorts, they might see it on the shirt, they might hear it on the tannoy announcements, they might see it on the giant screen here. So they now know it's a gift, it's a present, it's being paid for, not necessarily out of their wallet directly, but their boss has got them a gift of some kind. So now they have a different mindset. They come in, they have a good night, and then they might say, we'll do that. I had a sponsor once, and for a low-key midweek game, he had a workforce at the time of 135, and I gave him 200 tickets. So some of the workforce came and they brought some family. We ended up at one point with 63 season ticket holders on his workforce. 63. Or if they weren't season ticket holders, they came to at least 10 games a year. So we got a lot of fans that came because of it. And that's just all advertising. Half of it you don't know if it works. Half of it appears to work, but you don't know which half is working. That's what they always say. You don't know on marketing which bit's really worked and which bit doesn't. We go out leafleting every match. Virtually every match. We have a girl on the street handing out leaflets. When we don't leaflet, she might be ill or whatever, we don't get as big a walk-up. But they don't come in carrying the leaflet. It might be last week's leaflet or a month before leaflet that's just made them think, I'm going to check out when the Panthers are playing and we'll go and see the Panthers. So we do, it's across the board, the marketing that we try and do, all the way from handing out leaflets on the street, putting fixture cards through letterboxes. We do 170,000, 175,000 fixture cards through letterboxes across Nottingham at the start of the year. All the way from there, banners on the side of sponsors' buildings and what have you. But, if you stood on the street corner and gave tickets away, people would expect you to stand on the street corner and give tickets away every week.
Talking of sponsors and marketing, has the recent trophy success made that job a lot easier?
Well, yeah, of course it has. We've got a higher profile. The double-double, that's, phenomenal is an understatement. It's not been done before. The only reason the Guinness Book of Records said it wasn't a record was because they couldn't compare it with anything, and what have you. So, David! It's only Linger coming in. He's the stand-up comedian in the locker room. He would look up, see a camera, see Gary being interviewed, and know not to say anything. Yeah. So that would make him shout out, "Hello, Gary."
So not a lot different from how he is on the ice.
He's exactly the same. He's, one of the entries for What's in the Box with Jim Grice Limited was Linger's book of one-line chirps. That book would not fit in that box. It's only this big. Encyclopedia Britannica doesn't publish anymore. It would be about on the size of all 26 volumes of that. But yeah, I'm sorry, I've lost my thread. Where were you?
We were talking about marketing the team due to the trophy wins.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Your high-profile people like it, and you get sponsors. Again, let's go back to what we were saying when we were talking about crowds. Ice hockey is a bums-on-seats industry, and some of your sponsors are fans, and then they've got a marketing budget. Now they've got to spend that marketing budget in some way. And they might say, do you know what, I love the ice hockey, so I'm going to spend it with the Panthers. So if that sponsor, ex-fan, now sponsor/fan, is then on board as you win some trophies, and we've won a lot of trophies, they think, I've played a part in that. And they have. Every fan has played a part in every bit of success. Every past player has played a part in everything that we do and what have you. And so, of course, it works. You win a cup, you go and see them again. Said, do you want to do it again next year? Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, it was fantastic. So yeah, it's great to win trophies and what have you. But I would put a rider on that in that it's sport. You can't always control the referee's decisions. You can't always control what the wife has said to the player just before he left to come to the game and whether he has a good game or whatever. You know, there's lots of variables. It's sport.
Obviously, the league is talked about a lot. A certain announcer up the road mentions the year that we last won the league quite a lot. Do you feel that has come a millstone round the club's neck?
Well, do you know what? England hasn't won a world war since 1945. And the reason why is because they weren't in it. So, you know, there are certain people around perhaps that like to criticise Nottingham. On the quiet, they praise us, but publicly they want to criticise us. They think that's the way. There are one or two people who probably need psychiatric help to get over their paranoia. It's a fact. 1956 was the last year that the Nottingham Panthers had their name etched on the British League Championship trophy. We didn't play for, how many years was it? You're more of a stop, 20 odd.
20 years,
and then for the first few years after Gary brought the team back, they were kicked around into city leagues and northern leagues and southern leagues and special cups and things and what have you. And then there's the element of, yes, we were in the championship, but everyone was quite happy to have Nottingham as the whipping boys because we played in a little old stadium. We couldn't afford to compete. There were millionaires throwing money at some clubs. There were other firms backing teams, and there were teams that were throwing money at it that they didn't have. And you know what? We haven't gone bust since 1956 either. We've never gone bust. We've always paid our ways. We don't have a problem getting suppliers to come on board. We don't have a problem with agents ever looking into our history saying, oh, you didn't pay this player this money, you didn't pay this contract up or whatever. You know, so that's a pretty damn good record to have that others are trying to emulate. You asked what other teams do. Well, one of the big things they're all trying to do is emulate it. Last year was brilliant. 2 trophies for Nottingham, 1 for Belfast, and the 2 clubs that won the 3 trophies were never in any danger of going to the courts and offering 20p in the pound or just going bust and calling themselves the same name, 2013 Limited, the next year. That's great that the ice hockey has grown to such an extent that the trophies are being won by teams that could afford to win them and continue playing. And that was a real millstone around the sport's neck, wasn't it, in the past, where teams were buying success and going bust. And I don't know, you can look at the teams that have won the league trophy in the past and they may not have gone bust straight away, but the legacy of it 2-3 years later, they've re-registered the name or they've gone bust or what have you. You know, Bracknell doesn't play in our league anymore. Belfast went to court to do 20p in the pound. Sheffield, how many owners have they had and what have you. You know, so consistency on the business front can only be good news for our club and for the sport in general.
What would you say to people who often say that the history before we moved into the NIC has sometimes been forgotten?
Forgotten? How could you forget that building? I mean, I can still smell it in my sleep sometimes. I mean, that odour.
Yeah, the black
the cathedral of British ice hockey, forgotten. No, of course it hasn't been forgotten, but things grow, and we've talked about change, and changes are inevitable. You know, I'm a Middlesbrough fan when it comes to football. I don't think I could name you this year's team. Well, I probably could, but do you know what I'm trying to say is, but you know, when Tank Smith played and John Craggs played fullbacks, I used to love going and cheering the Borough on. Yeah. But we used to cheer corners because that was as good as we got. You know, we were down in Division 3, then we went bust. You know, then we had a great manager in Gareth Southgate. I loved those years in the Middlesbrough era. We won a cup, the only trophy we've ever won. It was fantastic. But you know, right now, what you get is what you're given, and the current Middlesbrough is like the current Panthers. You know, it's like, do you know what the daftest criticism we had when we moved was? And someone said this to somebody and they jumped down their throat on my behalf. They said, oh, I don't like the Panthers because Gary Moran wouldn't let me keep my seat. And bless him, he's not around now, Patrick Maltby. He said, what do you mean he wouldn't let you keep your seat? He said, well, he wouldn't let me sit in the new building where I used to sit in the old building. I said, what are you talking about? And this was the guy genuinely felt he should have been allowed to sit in the same seat. And Patrick said to him, well, where did you used to sit? He said, well, behind the goal, 4 rows back. He said, well, why couldn't you sit there? He said, well, someone else had already bought the seat. Well, who'd already bought it? The bloke that used to sit next to me. Do you know what I mean? And so, I think I loved it. I loved being in the old building, but I don't want to go back there because this facility here is the best in the country.
Yeah.
And no, you remember the atmosphere. You remember them standing 5 deep at the stage end. You remember Eric on the organ plonking away. You remember Eric getting banned for playing Three Blind Mice. All of these. Mike Blaisdell circling Gavin Fraser when Blazer was at Durham and dropping him with one sucker punch and putting £350 worth of bridge work straight down the back of his throat. These are all highlights. These are memories from the old stadium, and it was a great place. But you move on. And we said bye-bye to Cicely Mould, 90 years old, season ticket holder. She loved it here, and she was a good fan and she was a loyal fan. But you have to move forward.
Have you seen the museum that Fife have in their building?
I thought Fife was a museum. Is the whole town not? Do you not pay to get in anymore?
I'm not saying anything, but. Would there be plans, or is it something that you thought of where you could have that history preserved?
It's been talked about having displays here and what have you, but you go and have a look at the plans.
Yeah.
You tell me where you want to put the glass display cabinets, because the arena's just extended the shop. Brilliant, nice big shop, but they've taken their display cabinets out that were in the foyer, and. It's a case of where would you put it and what have you. Yeah, okay, we could rent a building in town and have a nice, have a hall of fame and what have you, but it wouldn't pay for itself.
No.
And you got to do things that not necessarily make money but don't cost money. And it's a lovely idea. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, Jono, in any way, but it's the kind of idea you talk about over a pint in a pub. And then the next morning when you wake up, you say, hang on a minute, that's not really practical, is it? Because where would you put it? But no one forgets the history of the club. Crikey, I've been around too long for that.
One of those pub conversations is often about shirt retirements and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously we've got 4 shirt retirements as they are now. Are there plans to have any more? And I'm more thinking probably the likes of Chick Zammit, Les Strongman.
Well, the problem with Chick and Les was they didn't wear one number.
Right.
It's been looked into at great length. I've been told by quite a few people that number 8 was retired for John Bramner. It wasn't. I can't find that anywhere. And then in the meantime, other people had worn number 8 for John Bramner in the old building. I think it's a lovely tribute. I remember standing next to Greg Hadden, and he didn't know I was going to do it, and we retired number 11, and he was bawling like a kid. He was so proud, it was bursting out of his chest, his heart, and the tears were streaming down his face, and he just hugged me like a kid. And I think with that comes the fact that it wants to be something special, doesn't it? And we're never going to forget Chick. We're never going to forget Les. I mean, still speak to him perhaps once a year.
Yeah.
Occasionally he'll ring up for one reason or another. But, if they haven't got a specific number, you can't always put them up. But we've got their pictures up in various places and what have you, and we always refer to them whenever we do anything about the long-term history of the club. It's always people always remember Chick Zammit because of the name. People that never saw him as this brilliant little dynamo on the ice, his name began with the letter Z. So if you go down to a bus queue at the bottom of Carlton Hill and there's a few older people there, and they'll all remember the name of Chick Zammit as we do, And I mean, I've spoken to his family at great length after he sadly passed away and what have you. But as a club gets older and longer, there are more and more names to slot into there. In our recent history, Jimmy Pack's my favourite, perhaps. And I quickly have to add the word perhaps, because then Barry Nykar's name springs to mind, and another big place. So why haven't we retired 44? Because no one ever beat him. But he was here for a relatively short space of time and what have you. But no, it's the bottom line is the very straight answer to your question is it's not ruled out, but it's a case of being really appropriate and earned.
Is there perhaps a case for honouring the player, rather like Toronto do, where they don't actually retire the shirt but they honour the player and a banner goes up in the rafters? Is that something that could perhaps be thought
because
about?
It's a multi-use venue, we can't do rafters, banners.
Right.
It's a straightforward, arena thing. We have the big. We're getting ready for tonight's game. The viewers might see the lighting changing as we're sitting here because the arena's now going from synchro skating into Panther mode and what have you. We could put something on the big banner at the end and put names up, and then as soon as we put Zammit, Strongman, Nikar, Pack. There'll be somebody that writes in saying, why haven't you put Hunt? Why haven't you put Timmins? Now, I mean, what a great guy Russ Timmins was, and he was struck down by illness and passed away. And his widow, who's remarried, she's here tomorrow. She's at the game tomorrow. She's the guest of Lighthouse, our match sponsors, and keeps in touch with us and what have you. But you know, I don't want to undervalue the honour to the other players and what have you. I mean, the four numbers that are up there: AD, all-time leading point scorer, and still all-time leading point scorer. Haddon, who was just that pocket dynamo, and he did it in both arenas. He did it old, you know, he's from the old school. Randall set a record for youngest play, which was subsequently broken by a few guys, but then played for 10 years straight. Specialist penalty kill and what have you. If it wasn't a record number of games, it was close to it and what have you. And then, of course, Gary Rippingale. And, you know, who knows, Gary probably would have played his career, retired, and be running a sports bar or something by now, but, you know, illness came in the middle of the night and he choked and he wasn't with us. But no one wears 3 because of that. So you look at those 3 numbers and those 3 guys, and there's reasons for it. And like you mentioned Chicken Les, and they're obvious contenders, but when we tried to check it out, no one could tell me what numbers they were.
Going off at a different subject, but you never reveal signings. There's never any clues. It's always, you know, as you say, when the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, that's when we reveal the signing. With the advent of, I suppose, social media and other sites, things get leaked out, not just here, but other clubs throughout the league. How does that make you feel when other clubs' news or your news gets leaked out?
You're not happy about it because it might spoil it. You know, I mean, you're trying to sign a guy, the last thing you want is another club trying to bump the wages up. Not necessarily with a true offer. Possibly just, oh, they're after him, let's go in there and offer an extra £100. At least that'll take £100 off their wage bill, you know, or out of their wage bill. But, you know, it's going to happen. You know, change. We've talked about change for the fans, and that happens for change. But we will stick to that policy of T's crossed, I's dotted before we make the announcement. And do you know what that means? It means when we announce it, it's fact. It's no good going out there every day trying to engineer a story saying we're talking to this player when you haven't got a cat in hell's chance of signing him. What you do? It makes you. You could say it makes you look stupid, but it makes you look almost classless in a way. Do you know what I mean? Negotiations are private, and the professional way to go about them is to negotiate privately and what have you. And Corey gets on with it, and there are times when me, Corey and Neil might be the only people in the world that know, apart from the guy and his agent. And some of those stories might get out. But, you know, there's so much goes on when Corey's negotiating with a player, and they don't always get across my desk until it's a done deal. He'll ring me up and say, what do you think about this? What should I do this? Or sometimes he'll send me the paperwork and say, I can't make this work, and we'll slice and dice or whatever, and we'll talk and what have you. You know, we had a couple of raids on guys on the run into the signing deadline, as we always do, you know, to try and take them away from us and what have you. And Corey came on after a game and said, listen, so-and-so's just been in to see me, he's got an offer from Europe. What are we going to do about it? I said, well, I'm going to update the website, then I'm going to write a story for next week's programme, then I'm going to load the interview I did with you onto the website on the radio, and then we're going to load the TV interview, and then I'm going to get his contract out, and I'm going to do some sums, and I'll ring you back in about half an hour, so stop panicking and we'll have a chat. And he said, fine, that's great. And then we had a look at it, and we went back and we worked some things out, and we've got a very happy player who's staying in Nottingham, and he's not going anywhere else. And as I wrote in, I think it's this issue of the magazine that's out, there was another team came in for Linger, and it wasn't his agent. An agent phoned him up and said, we've got you a job, elite league job, fantastic money. He said, what country? And when he told him, he said, that's where hockey players go to die. And he's staying here, you know, and he's studying at the University of Derby, and he'll get a master's degree in business. I bet it. Whether he might not pass the exams, he'll just make somebody laugh, and they'll say, "Oh, pass him anyway," whatever.
Sheffield have made a big push on their 50-50 tickets, and they're getting prizes. What, 2,000, 2,500. It's obviously an important revenue stream to them. Is it something you've thought of giving a push to increase that revenue stream?
Not a case of not pushing it, Jono. It's a case of I don't want the fans to run a gauntlet every time they come in. I don't want people in their face saying, buy one of these or you can't get past me, and what have you. And you can do that. You know, the best revenue for this club is when somebody's bought a ticket to sit where we're sitting now to watch the game. And I'd rather have paid for bums on seats watching games who then joined in the 50. For years and years and years, ours was the biggest 50-50 because we had more people buying the tickets because there were more people in the building. But again, there's a change element in there as well, isn't there? Because we sell 5 tickets for £1 and always have, because that's the way it started. And we have a proper licence. We're licensed with the City Council, you know, under the lottery rules and all the rest of it, and we have a licence holder, and we buy the licence every year, and we do everything above board, and we publish the winner's name every time, and people see the name published, and we make a list, and we keep a file, and we send it into the council when they ask to see it or audit it, or we just send it in anyway, just say these are the prizes and what have you. I think when you come to watch ice hockey, you should have a fun time. And if you want to enter the 50-50 draw, that's great. And if the prizes are going to be big, that's great. The prizes are pretty good. I saw the kid that won it a couple of weeks ago sitting directly below me. Oh, I thought the kid was jumping up and down. He couldn't contain himself. He won 693 quid. What better than watching the Panthers win and going on with nearly 700 quid in your back pocket?
Yeah. It's a long time since it happened to me. So.
What?
Old Place.
You won it?
I won it, Old Place, yeah.
Yeah, how much?
Manchester semi-final.
Yeah, how much was that?
253 quid.
We've had that back though, haven't we?
And the rest.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's fine. If that's the way people want to go forward, that's their business and what have you. But, you know, I like the most important figures after the scoreboard is the crowd figure.
Yeah. Talking to Sheffield, do you feel the rivalries become diluted somewhat with probably the amount of games that we tend to play against each other in a season?
Well, there's a school of thought that we should play Sheffield every week, but I don't want to go along with that at all. No, and it's not so much us in Sheffield as the bigger teams, the better teams, the bigger teams tend to contest the later rounds of competitions, and you do tend to see the opposition more and more. But you know, when we were down to 6 teams in the Super League, it wasn't a dreadful year.
No.
And the games were good, and your rivalries built up against all of the opposition because you saw them so often. But yeah, there's an element of, you know, and who knows how long a piece of string is. You know, what is the optimum number of games against Sheffield? 31 in a season? No. You know, but because it's conference now, we play them 4 times home, 4 times away. Then we were in their group in the cup, so we're up to 10. It could be 12 in the latter stages of the cup, and then it could be the one-offs here in the finals. Yeah, you know, the proof of that pudding will be when we don't sell those 308 tickets I was telling you about for next Friday night, and when they don't sell, you know, maybe it's gone to. There are a lot of fans, you know, that only come to Nottingham Sheffield games. Yeah. And you know, going back to marketing, the trick is to try and persuade those fans to also take in a Cardiff and a Coventry game. And then the trick is to get the ones that come to the Sheffield, Cardiff, Coventry, Belfast games to come and try out the Edinburgh, Dundee and Fife games. And then the trick is to get them to become season ticket holders. And that's what you're constantly trying to do, and all along the way. But at the moment, the fans would. It is a thought that's crossed all of our minds about how many times we play Sheffield. We don't play them pre-season or anything like that. We're asked every year, but it doesn't happen. Neil thinks about it regularly. I think about it nearly as regularly. And like I say, I suppose the yardstick is the size of the crowd.
Talking to Neil Black, how much involvement does he have in the club on a day-to-day basis?
He generally leaves us to get on with it and get on with it. You know, I mean, if we lose, by the time I get down from the 4th floor to the bottom, I've got a text. If we win, it could be Thursday before he gets in touch.
You've recently started using social media, so at the start of the season you've gone on Twitter and Facebook as a form of promotion. What was the reason for leaving it so long? Because other clubs were using it for quite a long
but
time.
you've got to have somebody that can do it and do it properly and do it reliably, you know. And we launched the new website.
Yeah.
That was the first priority. When we first did a website years ago, I was told it won't affect you at all. You won't have to do it. And you know, you end up having to do it. You know, especially with my background through radio, newspapers, magazines, television, regional radio, national radio, and all the rest of it. So you end up writing stuff and what have you. So when we launched the new website, obviously by then, a lot of website updates were going through my desk and what have you. At the same time, with the new website, which Kenny Clark, Unique, and his partner built for us, you were able to, the headlines in effect go out on Twitter and Facebook. It's an automatic feed and what have you. They did the app for us, you know, and it was brilliant, the app. But not everybody had the iPhone, and not everybody followed it. And then there were complications with getting the live score feeds from the Elite League website. We were paying for that. And paying daft money, given that it was our website that we were paying to get it off, but there were formatting and contract issues and all the rest of it. So the app had to fall by the way at the price of redoing the website. And there was nothing wrong with the old website, but it had been around a while, so it was time for change. So the new website, we've had nothing but pats on the back and plaudits about it, and they like it and what have you. So then the headlines off the news stories go out on Twitter, so that was feeding Twitter. And then we had someone on the outside of the office who was going to add the extra bits, you know, you got the game today and what have you. But they had other things and other commitments and what have you. And then we found ourselves in a position with James in the office, who came on board to help us with the Grudge Cup, the golf this year, because he got a bit of a background in. He did that fan survey a couple of years ago when he was a student. And so he was with us full time on a contract kind of basis. And, you know, between us, which is a phrase that means me. we just had the idea that we should take that in house and look after it. So, and it touch wood, it seems to be working okay, you know. So we're doing extra feeds. So, and it's become part of the tapestry that is, you know, the Nottingham Panthers. You know, we have banners on buildings, we do leaflet, we do fixture cards, we have radio competitions, we have radio advertising. We have contra deals, we get coverage in the press, we get coverage on the radio, we get coverage on the television and all the rest of it. And some of the fans are serviced by the Match Night magazine. You know, there's a hardcore fans who want to get the magazine and see the latest stats and read the features and read what Corey's thinking and get the latest news from there, and they take it home and they fight over it in bed, so who's going to read it to go to sleep first and all the rest of it. And I know them, I can name them. I haven't been to the bedroom to watch them, but I do know who they are. They've told, so they say. Right, I haven't witnessed it myself. That's third party, right? But then there's there are newer fans, and Twitter's got bigger, and it's quite rightly part of the whole fabric that is the operation. But everything is aimed at: are you going to the game tonight?
So you'd say it's had a positive effect since you started using it?
Well, yeah, we had that situation when we brought Bo back, didn't we? And and I walked through the office. I said, James, whack something on Twitter, so we're going to do an announcement around midday. Because it had just fallen into place. So we did that. And then I believe the manager of Braehead then criticised us for not having a website capable of coping with because we collapsed. Which I thought was a bit rich, because we had more people trying to get on our website than went to their game the night before. You know, but that's, you know, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But, you know, and you know, that was, it proved it stirs the pot. It stirs the pot amongst your existing fans. But the existing fans are already coming to the game. So you're trying to get your existing fans to get new fans to come with them to the game and what have you. And it's all part and parcel of this maelstrom, which is, it's a good sport, it's a good night out. How many years have you been watching it?
30.
And you're not been happy with us at times in that 30 years, have you?
No.
You still come back.
But still come back, yeah. But it's, I suppose that's the same with any sporting team. You were saying about Middlesbrough. Yeah. It's the same. I mean, I've been the same with Forest.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the old building, I remember a bloke stopped me once. He said, I want to thank you. I said, what's that for? He said, I've just found this sport. I've waited. He got a calculator, one of these tiny calculators. They're getting the rink ready. That's the noise in the background. I can't stop that for you. I want the edge doing, because it's a lovely building, but it still bounces awkwardly sometimes. I want to give K-Wall every chance we can give him. That when it's winging round the back, it will keep winging past him. So they're doing the edges. But he said to me, he's just worked out on his calculator that him and his brother and their two sons had spent £30,000 on season tickets following Forest home and away over the previous umpteen years, and they didn't know this was on the doorstep. So it's
yeah. So we mentioned what Panthers are doing right with regards to crowds, but what do you think we could do better?
Well, you're always trying to improve things. I mean, the way the ticketing's moving forward, that's going to help. You can buy tickets and put them on your phone and things in certain places and what have you. And printing your own tickets has been a big help as well and what have you. And trying to cut down the costs and what have you. I mean, the playoffs this year, there's no booking fees and what have you for the finals. All the tickets are being sold from here for the playoff finals weekend. For us, if people make suggestions, we do our best to take them on board, and if we don't, there's usually a pretty good reason for why we can't do it. So, you're always looking to improve the product and what have you. Best thing we could do is win every game, but sadly the ticket says versus, it doesn't say beating. And if you won every game, would that make it boring? I don't know. Yeah. It might. Yeah. But it's nice to be one of the powerhouse teams in the league. It's nice to be putting on a decent show. It's nice to get visiting fans in. It's nice to have as many season ticket holders as we've got. And we've got a lot of fantastic, brilliant fans. And they play a part in what we do every day of every week.
The score again, the very top player is the GMB Nottingham Panthers 7, the Braehead 3. The winners again tomorrow.
Good win tonight.
Yeah, it was over and done early, wasn't it? I mentioned those text messages I get from the chairman.
Yeah.
I toyed with sending him one tonight because he wants the Braehead clan, but we let him off the hook a while. But it was done and dusted early doors. I didn't think we were that great, but we took our chances when they came our way. We got the early goal and it kind of took the wind out of their sails.
So the league overall this season has been pretty close, don't you think? How do you see it going onwards with this conference system?
Well, it was me that promoted the idea of the conference system. Then I wanted a bit more time to have a think about how you were going to run it. The aspect that worries me is that all your games in your conference, and ours happens to be the tougher of the two conferences, count towards the league. It's the lot. Meanwhile, you could be. Let's cut to the chase. I always tell it straight. The fear was that Braehead clan would put together a team to totally dominate the other conference. Yeah. And they could have the league wrapped up with the extra points they would get from that basis. I think that is an area that you've got to look at. But I'm told, and when we go to board meetings, the so-called smaller clubs say that they're much more competitive, the fans are enjoying it more and what have you. And so are we. We've talked up in the stands there before the game about too many games against Sheffield, but perhaps we had too many games against some of the lesser lights as well. So it's better to weed them out and what have you. So you're trying to put on a balanced diet, a varied diet for the fans and what have you. And touch wood, so far so good.
Let's look ahead, say 10 years hence from now. Do you still see an elite league, or do you think it may be something different?
I mean, I don't know whether that's a good question or a bad question, but I honestly don't know the answer to it. I would answer it by saying, Jono, I have no reason why there won't be. There are no greater problems today in the top flight of British ice hockey than there have been in the past. Some of the teams or some of the owners might change, or some of the teams might change. There's talk of other teams joining us and what have you. There always is. There's talk of teams, there are rumours or suggestions that some teams might not make it right. You never know what's going to be around the corner. The bottom line is there have been doom and gloom merchants, and there have been Jobs around for a long time who saying it won't be around next year. There won't be Elite League ice hockey, there won't be top flight. Elite League was never going to work, Super League was never going to work, and what have you. And you know what? A lot of people have had some good nights out at ice hockey, both in Nottingham and at the other venues around the country. The one thing I hope is that everybody gets on a firm financial footing, and it's been our philosophy from the get-go that you can't spend what you haven't got. It's a Dickens thing, isn't it? It's Mr. McCall, but if your income's 20 shillings a week and you spend a guinea, the result is misery. If your income's 20 shillings and you spend 19 and 6, the result's happiness. It's actually a year in Dickens times but you know what I'm getting at. If you spend more than you've got, it's not going to work. And we talked about that again, haven't we? You know, I mean, it's all very well winning Grand Slams and titles and championships and cups and what have you, and then if you can't pay the bill for the sticks that you used, it has a hollow feeling to it.
Looking at your own role within the club, do you ever see a time when you are Nottingham Panthers without you involved in some way?
Yeah, just if I get run over by a bus on the way home tomorrow, there'll be a Panthers game tomorrow afternoon against Fife.
Yeah, so just as simple as that, really.
Yeah. You come in, you do your best. You try and reward everybody, fans, you know, players. You just try to be honest. You know, I mean, if some people don't like it told straight, then please don't talk to me. You know, because that's the only way you can get through life. It's a yardstick. It's an ethos. It's something my mum and dad taught me to do, and I'll always do it that way. And then, you know, I mean, I wasn't a foot in the door, you know, chief reporter for a long time, you know, without being able to look after myself and what have you. So you just have to tell it straight and say, you know, we do it for this reason. You know, people come up with ideas. But so you've come up with ideas, and then we said, hang on a minute, you can't do that because of X, Y, Z. So ABC wouldn't work and what have you. You know, when I write the book, it'll probably be titled If They Only Knew 5%. But for the time being, we are Saturday night gladiators, sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, sometimes on a Tuesday, sometimes on a Wednesday. We might have to do one on a Thursday. But we are in effect Saturday night gladiators, or the boys are Saturday night gladiators, and I want everyone to come and watch the Panthers fighting the opposition and coming and battling against the opposition. I might spill a few beans and what have you. And then along the way, there are moments. I wrote about it in the Match magazine, about how Linger made me nearly drown me. It's something he said at training to Bruce Graham. And I'm sure I'm going to be swimming at Virgin Active next week, and the sight of Linger pretending to water ski behind the Zamboni will float across the mind, and I'll be waving at the lifeguard again, going, "Can you help me, please?" You know, because he's just walked past me in the corridor, and he just looked down, and I just said, "You idiot." And he just laughed and said, "I don't agree with everybody else. You know, they don't like you, but I do." And we had a hug. You know, but that's Linger. He's just a character, and we've had them along the way as well. So we're going to keep battling away and doing our best. And like I say, the ticket says versus, but we'll always try to beat them.
One final question: how do you rate this year's Panthers side against the tens of others that we've had in your time?
I don't think you can answer that question either. I mean, it depends what the opposition's like, it depends what happens on a given day, it depends on the standard of the refereeing on a given night and what have you. You know, we all have favourite players, we all have favourite lines and what have you. You know, I lean towards blue-collar hockey players, you know, hard workers, grafters, you know, your Graham Gardens, your Ross Lamberts, obviously our Paul, you know, Barry Nykar was a favourite, we talked about him, Jimmy Pack and what. Grafters. Best player on the ice tonight, Brandon Benedict. You know, because he'll be the guy that is at your end of the ice, and then he's the first one at the other end of the ice. You know, guys that move their feet and what have you. You know, it's whatever. I don't think you can't compare teams. I saw something in the papers about Sir Alex Ferguson says this team is better than the 1999 Man United team or whatever. Well, bless him, he'll have been asked that question and put on the spot. The real answer is, you can't compare like for like. You've got to compare like as opposed to the opposition and the advantages they might have. And I mean, that would be a thesis that would take you about 59 weeks to complete on a master's research grant at Loughborough Sports University. So, you know, the bottom line is every year we try to entertain, we try to win every game, and sometimes it'll go wrong. For that I'm very sorry, and sometimes it'll go right, and we've won a lot of trophies and a lot of silverware, we've got a lot of smiles on faces, and we want to do that even more as the future weeks come and go and pass and what have you.
Well, Gary, thanks very much for your time today, and thanks for having us here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, thank you.
Take care.